There are stories that inspire. There are stories that warn. And there are stories that do both. This is the first chapter of such a story, one that begins in glory, in purpose, and in deep Christian roots. We journey today to the peaceful city of Calabar, where a young man named Brother Esau was born under the divine spotlight of destiny. A brother raised in righteousness, disciplined in devotion, and burning with a passion for God. But before anything else, let's begin where it all started, with his miraculous birth. The miracle child. Esau was not just another child, he was a miracle wrapped in flesh. His parents, Elder and Mummy Edom, had waited for 10 long years without the cry of a child in their home. Many mocked them. Some called them barren. Others gave up hope. But they held on to faith. As committed members of deeper Christian life ministry in Calabar, they poured their tears and petitions before God regularly during vigils, crusades, and special programs. And then, one glorious Sunday, just after the district pastor had preached on Is Anything Too Hard for the Lord, they received the long-awaited news Mummy Edom was finally pregnant. The entire church rejoiced. A new name was added to their testimonies that year, Esau. Though many questioned why they named him after a seemingly negative Bible figure, the father explained, "We waited so long, and finally, this is our first fruit, our Esau." But unlike the Esau of the Bible, this one is kept and sanctified for the Lord. Esau's early devotion. Esau's upbringing was soaked in spiritual discipline. From morning devotions at 5 a.m. to Bible recitations before dinner, he was groomed in the fear of God. By the age of 10, he had already memorized over 40 memory verses, and by 12, during a children's revival service at Deeper Life's Atimbo district, Esau gave his life to Christ genuinely and tearfully. It wasn't just a child repeating a prayer. No. Esau began to take the things of God seriously. He joined the children's choir, then the youth choir as he grew. He would often fast on his own and spend time reading the Bible for hours. In school, he was the only student who had a pocket-sized New Testament Bible inside his blazer every day. He didn't just carry it, he quoted it. Academic excellence and Christian integrity. Esau was not just spiritual, he was brilliant. At government secondary school, Calabar, he topped his class year after year. He was known for writing correct answers on the chalkboard when teachers wanted quick help during revision sessions. His classmates began calling him Pastor Einstein. But for Esau, the focus was always Jesus. He wasn't a loud student. He didn't joke around girls. He avoided cliques and kept company with only those who shared similar values. Every Monday morning, when the principal allowed a short exhortation before assembly, Esau would often be chosen to speak. And each time, he used it to remind the students that success without God was failure in disguise. The WAEC test. When it came time to write the WAEC exams, Esau faced what would be his first serious test of integrity. In his school, like many others in Nigeria, it was common practice for students to contribute money to bribe invigilators or secure leaked questions. But Esau refused. In fact, he went beyond just refusing, he began preaching against it. He told his friends plainly, "God does not need your compromise to bless you. If I fail this WAC while standing for righteousness, I still win in God's eyes." This didn't sit well with many. He was insulted, mocked, and even threatened by some classmates who feared his noise would expose their plans. A group of students called him brother over holy. But Esau stood firm. On the day of the English exam, while others were trying to whisper answers or exchange papers, Esau bent his head and focused. He finished early and spent the last 15 minutes praying quietly for God's mercy. When the results came out months later, Esau passed all his subjects with excellent grades. No assistance. No bribery. Just grace and effort. Teachers were impressed. Classmates were stunned. And the principal reportedly used him as a reference point for integrity during the next year's school orientation. The JAM miracle. After WAEC, Esau prepared for the JAM UTME. His family couldn't afford to send him for extra lessons, so he studied with borrowed textbooks, YouTube tutorials, and the help of an older church brother who was in university. He prayed, fasted, and trusted God for success. On the day of the exam, it rained heavily. Many candidates came late. Esau arrived 2 hours early, drenched but determined. He scored over 290, placing him among the top scorers in the country that year. He applied for nursing sciences at the prestigious University of Calabar, UNICAL, a very competitive course, and by God's favor, he was admitted on first batch. His parents wept tears of joy. From waiting for 10 years to now raising a first-class child of promise, it was the Lord's doing. The preparation to enter UNICAL. Before leaving for school, the church organized a special send-forth prayer for Esau. The pastor laid hands on him and declared, "Esau, your light will shine brighter in UNICAL. You will be a Daniel in Babylon. You will not defile yourself." Esau himself was resolved. He packed his Bible, hymn book, and quiet time guide. He also wrote in his personal journal, "Lord, I will stand for you in this new season. UNICAL will not change me. I will change UNICAL." His father's parting words were, "Don't forget whose son you are. And more importantly, don't forget whose child you are." So with high hopes, deep convictions, and divine grace, Brother Esau stepped into the University of Calabar, a young man full of fire, vision, and destiny. But what happens when a burning fire is surrounded by tempting winds? Will the fire endure, or will it flicker? A zealous beginning. At the University of Calabar, Esau did what was expected of a godly young man. He didn't waste time. He immediately joined the Deeper Life Campus Fellowship and enrolled in the choir unit, where his angelic voice stood out during every fellowship. He was consistent, prayerful, and dedicated to the work of God. He would rise early for quiet time, fast weekly, and preach the gospel boldly. It wasn't uncommon to hear him ministering in lecture halls, inside buses, or to students under mango trees after class. Many referred to him as a campus apostle. Some even said, if every brother in Deeper Life were like Esau, Calabar would be on fire for Jesus. But what nobody saw was the slow and silent drift that was about to begin. When pressure began, Esau had always kept his boundaries with ladies. In secondary school, he was known to be too strict and too spiritual to even greet girls casually. That strictness followed him into UNICAL. But university is a different world. And slowly, his female classmates began to take special interest in him. He wasn't just intelligent, he was spiritual, handsome, disciplined, and had a sense of mystery that drew attention. At first, Esau didn't notice their subtle approaches. He remained focused and polite. But then, they began confronting him with words like, "Esau, you're too uptight. You act like you're an angel from heaven. Why are you pretending? We know all you brothers are fake. Relax now, life is not that serious. Be social." Esau didn't want to offend them. So gradually, he began to let down his guard. He started attending birthday parties, sometimes out of politeness, sometimes out of pressure. Though he refused alcohol and left early, those small compromises began to open the door to greater spiritual weakness. The spiritual coldness. While still singing in the choir, Esau started noticing a change in his spiritual life. His once fiery quiet times became brief and mechanical. His fasting days were now fewer, and his evangelism was now occasional. Prayer meetings became boring. The presence of God that once overwhelmed him during worship began to feel distant. But on the outside, everything looked fine. He still sang. He still smiled. He still carried his Bible. But inside, the fire was dying. He began finding it harder to resist certain conversations, certain jokes, certain glances. And Satan was watching. The fatal invitation. Then came a day that changed everything. A classmate of his, Miracle, invited him to her house. She was friendly, intelligent, and had a reputation for being polite. She told Esau, "Brother Esau, I prepared something special. I know you don't eat outside, so I cooked it myself. Please just honor me." Esau hesitated. He normally never visited girls alone. But this time, he told himself, it's just food. Nothing more. When he got to her apartment, the atmosphere was calm. She served him food and drink, and they talked about school and life. But after eating, Esau felt unusually tired. Miracle gently said, "Just rest a little before going back. You can lie down here, I won't disturb you." Reluctantly, Esau laid on her bed. He never knew it was a trap. Moments later, Miracle climbed beside him, dressed seductively. She began touching him and whispering into his ears. Esau froze. He tried to resist. But he was already spiritually dry. The fire that could have repelled her was no longer there. The conviction that once guarded his soul had faded. He fell. He committed immorality. And the moment it was over, Esau sat up in shock. He held his head and began to cry like a baby. The confession and the warning, 2 minutes. The next morning, Esau went straight to his fellowship pastor, knelt down, and broke into tears. I've sinned. I've failed God. I've done what I never thought I would do. The pastor was heartbroken. He wept too. But he prayed for Esau and led him through a genuine repentance. Esau was disciplined by the fellowship. He stepped down from the choir, cut off every ungodly influence, and began rebuilding his altar with fasting, prayers, and deep meditation. He vowed never to fall again. His journal carried these words: Lord, let me die than fall again. I will bear whatever shame, but I will never return to sin. But 1 month later, something unexpected happened. Miracle showed up with news. The pregnancy. Esau, I'm pregnant. The words hit him like a thunderstorm. He was speechless. His world began to crumble. He ran back to his pastor. The pastor, though firm, was kind. He told him, you must accept responsibility. Don't even think of abortion. This is the consequence of your act. Stand like a man of God and face it. Esau nodded. He agreed to speak with Miracle. But just 2 days later, a terrible tragedy occurred. The sudden death. Esau got a call from a mutual friend. The voice on the other end was shaking. Esau, have you heard? Miracle is dead. What? She tried to abort the baby. She bled too much and didn't make it. Esau collapsed. The brother who once walked in righteousness was now facing a nightmare. He was soon arrested, as Miracle's parents filed a case against him, accusing him of responsibility for the death of their daughter. The final judgment. After weeks in court, testimonies, autopsies, and evidence, Esau was convicted of contributing to the illegal abortion that led to Miracle's death. Though he had not asked her to abort it, the law found him guilty of recklessness and indirect manslaughter. Esau was sentenced to 40 years in prison. The same Esau that was once called Campus Apostle, now wears a prison uniform. Dear believer, this story is not to entertain. It's to warn. It's to call us back to vigilance. 1. No one is above temptation. Even the firebrand can fall if he stops feeding the fire. 2. Spiritual coldness is the first sign of destruction. Check your fire. Are you still praying? Fasting? Burning? 3. Flee all appearances of evil. That birthday party, that house visit, that private chat. They're not always innocent. 4. Genuine repentance does not always cancel consequences. God forgave Esau, but the earthly consequences still followed. 5. Guard your destiny with discipline. One night can destroy years of labor. Esau shared this story from prison. With tears in his eyes and a heart full of regret, he said, I sold my salvation for cheap pleasure. I played with fire, and it burned me. Let this story draw you closer to God. Share it with a friend. Pray, watch, and keep the fire burning. Stay tuned for more real Christian revival stories.